So after the hotel, what's next?
Well, it's the Kilkenny Ridge. Basically, like you're going from Womback up to Rogers Ledge. That's the whole Kilkenny Ridge traverse. And then from there, you'll hop on the Nash Stream and then the northern section, I think.
Yeah, Kilkenny is it's a beautiful trail. It was funny. Certain trails are obviously are nicer than others, and that was I remember that as being a nice section. And I know that you've done it, Stomp, haven't you?
I have not. No, I've done bits and pieces, but not the whole thing. Yeah, and I saw your footage of that really steep section there. What, Rogers Ledge? How was that?
It's probably the highlight of the Cohos Trail, I would think. Dude, that's like the best part of the whole trail.
Hold on.
I think you got whacked in the head a little harder than you think.
I think Mark definitely needs a little bit of concussion therapy.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
All right, Stomp. So episode 26 here. I think that the entire listening audience is excitedly waiting for an update on your colonoscopy. I mean, that's really all I care about.
Oh, it's great.
How long was the hose? How did you feel? Tell us everything.
I don't remember much. I mean, they rolled me into the procedure room and put this mask on my face, and they said it was oxygen, but it smelled a little funny. And then they asked me to lay on my side, which is odd. Why would they have me lay on my side? I don't know. Anyway, I was, what's interesting, I was out like a light, but the second I went out, I was dreaming like I was on this endless through hike of untraveled herd paths and with like green vivid fauna. I think it must have been the Grand Traverse or something like that. And I when I say endless, you've been under anesthesia, haven't you?
I mean, I think the last time I was under anesthesia was when I was like 14 years old, getting molars removed. So all I remember is just laughing like a lunatic, and that was about it.
What's weird is, like, if you can imagine being in the deepest slumber ever, and then all of a sudden somebody grabs your shoulder, and it was a woman, and she's like, "Okay, Mr. Bernard, it's time to wake up now," and you're just getting whipped out of heaven by this nurse. So yeah, that was my fun experience. But I don't know. They found a couple typical things, I guess, for my age group, but no big deal. So there you have it, audience. Great colonoscopy talk. It's a great topic for a podcast. It's going to really boost the ratings.
Yeah, exactly. The update that nobody wanted to hear.
Right. Except for you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you want to throw anything out to the sponsors or coffee talk or any of that fun stuff?
Yeah, we have not had any donations on coffee, but just throwing out the old plug for Reckless. And special thanks. You get to enjoy the best food, craft beer, and fun, located near the Five Corners and just minutes from Franconia Notch. And they're telling me that people are starting to stop in from the hiking community, which is fantastic. So thank you, everybody, for making an effort to stop by. They're a great place.
Yeah. When you go in there, drop our name for sure. Tell them that we sent you in there. And I got to get in there. I just need to get up there. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks for me.
Yeah, it's busy for everybody. Same here.
Yeah. All right. So anything else before we transition into the show summary?
No, I think we're good. Let's move on. We've got a lot to talk about.
All right. So tonight we are going to talk about the recent training day that Stomp and his SAR team went through. Sounds like they had a busy day on 9/11, and then we've also got Mark here to talk a little bit about. So Mark was here on, I think, episode 17 to talk about his plan to hike Sunapee, Monadnock Greenway, and then connect it with the Cohos Trail. He recently had an injury that was on the same day as the training stuff, so we're going to talk about that a little bit, and we're going to wrap up the Cohos Trail with him. We're going to cover a little bit about the flags on the 48, and then there was a rescue that happened during Stomp's training event, so we'll do a deep dive on that as well. So excited to get going on the show. I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
All right. Any beer talk? Is anybody drinking beer? Mark, do you have a beer?
I do not have a beer. I'm a little bit fragile right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So I just went with the Red Bull. It keeps some energy up.
Okay. Yeah. We'll explain in a little while. You drinking anything, Stomp?
Yeah, I'm having a little Pierre Ferrand cognac from France. Just a little sip as I make my way through this podcast. Wow. Cognac's great. It's very nice.
I don't think I've ever had a cognac. I'm not drinking anything. I've been, I was at Hampton Beach earlier today, a seafood festival, and then I was at a Patriots party where I had a couple of beers, so I'm pretty much done.
Yeah, that's good. I was on the river today floating with my wife, and I talked to her about Sober October? I think I might try to do that. And I'm like, hey, you want to do that with me? And she's like, hell no, I'm going to Disney. So I'm like, well, how about like a half Sober October? And she's like, I'll think about it. We'll see.
Yeah. I would do that. If you want to do Sober October, I'll do that with you. Just let me know.
Hey, no, I'll commit to it right here.
Okay. All right. We're doing...
For multiple reasons. I'm like, I just want to shake off a couple pounds, and I need a little more energy. There's some interesting stuff going on in my life here with my occupation and stuff, and some new opportunities that are opening. So I have to be on my toes, people. Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to have to remember this. So if we forget, somebody call us out, but we're doing Sober October now. So no beer talk for some of our early winter shows, I guess.
We'll have to come up with a different kind of talk for that section. Yeah. Maybe some viewers can give us some suggestions.
Yeah. Oh, we'll do morning shows, and we can do like fancy coffee drinks or something.
Latte. Yeah, that sounds good. What's in your cup today, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll do some fancy coffee stuff. All right, so I think we're going to defer. Normally we would talk about recent hikes here, but we're going to defer that just because I don't think there are that many recent hikes, and I think we're going to cover some stuff with Mark in a separate segment. So I think let's move on to segment one, Stomp, which is you wanted to talk about the training day event that you went through with the search and rescue team.
Yep. Yearly, the state agencies, the volunteer SAR teams, Fish and Game get together for statewide training. And it's historically been in this time frame. Actually, no, it's been a little earlier in the year, but last year was canceled, and then this year it was still a little iffy with all the COVID stuff going on. So we picked the date of September 11th, and it just happened to be the 20th. And, we all knew it was going to be a pretty awesome day and momentous day and a great time to get together. So we met up at Cannon. Pretty much everybody was there. Fish and Game, Upper Valley, Wilderness Response, New England Canine, Randolph Mountain Club, Mountain Rescue Services. Everybody showed up around 8:30, and each of the teams taught a course from about 9 until 11:30. And the different course offerings were litter packaging and basic rope belay. Mountain Rescue Services actually took their group of people up onto Bald Mountain and demonstrated sked maneuvering. Sked is the plastic litter that we'll use sometimes for an injured person. You could actually see them from the Peabody Base Lodge parking lot. If you looked up, you could check them out. There was a tabletop laptop search course that was happening. So it was really great. But driving there was fantastic because it's nice and early. It's about 7:38 in the morning, driving through the Notch. And honestly, it was like just a classic, beautiful September day. And if you looked up towards the left, up towards Cannon Cliffs, you could see the flag flying up in the Old Man. So every year since 9/11, PEMI members and local people from the region climb up and fly the flag. And I'm sure some people have seen that on the news, the media, and whatnot. So
they fly the flag from where the Old Man location is?
Exactly. Yep. Basically where his forehead would have been. It's about 900 feet high. There's a climber's trail that gets you up there. And
have you been up there?
I have, yeah, multiple times. Yeah, Mark has too, actually. Right?
Yeah, we slept up there one time, didn't we?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know. I know. I'm just asking for the audience's sake. I'm just playing dumb. No, so it's a neat place. I mean, the flags on the 48 operation there, they do the flags and all the 48, but people are flying flags everywhere. I mean, people were flying flags on Monadnock and all the other lower summits too. So it's really a momentous thing to memorialize the victims of 9/11.
And the training day offering, so they have different programs. Can you pick like what path you want to follow in these trainings, or do they just assign you based on some criteria?
Nope, it's random. Yeah, you just pick what you want. And some of the offerings actually count towards continuing educational credits for EMT credentials and whatnot. So that's pretty handy too. Great resource. So the coolest part about it is, the New Hampshire Outdoor Council gives us lunch. They pay for lunch. So we had 116 people show up for this. Mark, a.k.a. Nobby, showed up earlier in the morning, and my folks showed up, and they were just sort of hanging out on the periphery watching things. And the Blackhawks showed up around 12:15 or so, and that's always just an epic thing to see. It came flying in from south of the Notch straight up to Artist, in between Cannon and Artist Bluff, basically, and came in and parked at one of the lower gravelly parking lots at the Peabody Lodge. And
yeah, he came in fast.
Yeah. They came in fast and skilled, though, like really smooth. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it was.
So after lunch, the Air National Guard crew members gave us all a rundown of safety expectations and the courses they would be offering. So basically, they had 3 stations outside of the Black Hawk itself. The first one was for team members to go into the Black Hawk and learn how the buckle system works. Because when you get into this thing, you have to know how to get into it. You have to obviously watch out for the blades up ahead. You don't want to get decapitated. That wouldn't be good. And when you get inside there's I believe it's a 4-point buckle system that you have to buckle into the seat so that you're safe. And then, getting out and all that. It's pretty interesting. The second one was how they lower, say, a medic or hoist somebody that doesn't need a litter. And they demonstrated the use of what they call a jungle extractor, which is basically this... imagine an anchor where the arms of the anchor fold up so it's like a spike. So it'll drop right in through thick canopy, and then you can fold the arms down and sit on it. You could, in some cases, have 2 people on it. So that was the second thing. And then the third section was litter packaging, how they package somebody in a litter, the procedure of throwing a line down, a tag line, and they frequently mentioned the video out of Arizona. I don't know if you guys saw that video of the woman spinning in the litter. 100,000 revolutions a minute. Okay, so that happened because what's called a tag line broke off. So you have somebody stationary on the ground with a tag line from you to the litter holding it steady. If that tag line breaks, then there's nothing keeping the downdraft of the Black Hawk from spinning that thing out of control. And that's what happened in that case. They were going to actually do a demonstration of that. Before they do that, they have the dogs. They fire up the engines, which they did, and they have the dogs from New England Canine enter the the Black Hawk and then leave the Black Hawk so that they can get used to it. And some of the newer, the puppies are very intimidated by it. So before the thing even fires up, they bring the dogs inside. They can sniff around the cockpit, and then they fire it up and bring the dogs in. And after that, they were going to demonstrate the actual procedure of hoisting and elevating somebody and lowering and all that stuff. So
did you notice, do those dogs have like separate handlers, or is there like one handler for multiple dogs?
I'm pretty sure that it's private owners that volunteer for New England Canine. I'll clarify that for the listeners, but it's basically, if you want to volunteer for the team and you have a dog, there's a whole process of application and training and everything else. So I believe it's an owner's individual dog, and they have multiple owners, and they're busy. They're quite busy.
I bet.
Not just in New Hampshire, but just regionally.
Did any of the dogs refuse to get in the helicopter, or were they all pretty good?
Well, here's the thing. They fired up the Black Hawk, and I've got my goggles on. My folks are next to me, and my cousin showed up, and we're all like maybe 50 yards away. And it was taking a long time. Like, they do a checklist before they launch, but it was just taking a very long time. And then I noticed Jim Nealand, who's the lead lieutenant on Fish and Game for District 3 here in Grafton, sort of walking around with his handheld radio. And then he went over to the pilot. And long story short, I guess there was an incident elsewhere, which we'll talk about briefly. But I want to go backwards for a moment and talk about Nobby, because Mark showed up before the early AM sessions. And Mark, do you want to just tell me what happened? I was sort of distracted because I was trying to manage a couple things and just running around. But why don't you give us a brief little story?
And I was trying to stay in the back and not bother you guys, but I was I was just coming off a hike. I went and I did Jefferson because I wanted to. I'm knocking off some of the 25 terrifying 25s, and so I was doing Jefferson that morning, and I was the first on the mountain on Jefferson. And
what trail?
Caps Ridge.
Okay.
And so I hit it I was waiting for it to get a little bit of light, and I hit the trail and got to the top, and it was so windy up there. I think the forecast was saying it was blowing like 40 to 60 with 70 mile an hour gusts. And it was at least 50 when I was up there. And I was just trying to picture those guys trying to hang a flag up there and how difficult that was going to be. But I think that by noontime, the wind was supposed to die. But when I was up there, it was very hard to walk. And it was, they have a little loop that you can do around there where it goes down the other side, and you can loop around and then go right back down the same trail that came up. And so I did that. And at the top, there was one group that was right behind me. And right when I left the top, I heard a girl scream. So I kind of went back to see if she was okay. And then I heard them laughing. So I was like, oh, they're fine. And then so I turned around, and maybe, I don't know, probably 20 minutes later, I was walking in probably the windiest part where the wind was coming right off over the mountain. And walking, rock to rock was difficult because it was so windy, and it was slippery too because it has kind of the rocks are a little bit mossy up there. And I'm not making excuses, but I messed up and slipped, and it's funny how it's in slow motion. It's really funny because I'm falling, and I'm like, you know what? I'm heading right towards that rock. I'm like, is there anything I can do about this? No, it's still coming. All right.
So were you falling backwards or forwards?
Forwards. And
you're heading downhill.
Slow, yeah, heading downhill, and it was slow motion. And then my head made contact with a rock, and bam! And the first thing I thought was, am I okay? But I didn't see any stars, thank God. And the second thing I thought was, I better get off this mountain because I'm going to be so embarrassed if
Stomp.
he has to come get me. And because if Stomp had to get me, if Stomp had to get me, that would have been.
You have to edit that out, Stomp.
That would have been the end.
It's okay. Beep. I'll put one of those beeps on it. Beep.
Yeah.
All right. So he falls. He face plants, but he shows up at the training.
Yeah.
With, I mean, you look like you saw a ghost. You were pale. He had a hat on over his forehead, and he lifted up his forehead, and he had a giant 4x4 gauze in his forehead. So he was in rough shape. So I'm like, geez, are you gonna be all right?
Well, they had a bathroom there, and I walked into the bathroom and used all their napkins to clean me up a bit, and there was a couple guys that walked in and saw that. They were kind of a little bit terrified, but because it didn't look too pretty, and
that's pretty dramatic. I saw the picture too.
Yeah, but it could have been, and you always got to say this, it could have been a lot worse because. My first priority when I hit it, thank God I had a ski cap on, so it kind of padded a little bit.
Yeah.
But but the first thing I thought when I fell is I got to get the tree line. That was the first thing that entered my mind because I'm like, if I pass out, I'll pass out under the tree line and I'll be fine. But I got to get the tree line because it wasn't really cold, but it was probably about 40 degrees up there, 50-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, and so. The blood, but the ski cap was soaking up all the blood, so I was fine.
Anybody see you walking down? Were they like, "What the hell's going on with this lunatic?"
Yeah. One. It was funny. I probably passed literally maybe 100 people going down because I was.
Yeah, it's a busy day up there because they're all going on like flags on the 48, right?
Mm-hmm. And there was only one lady that said that noticed. I think there might have been a little blood coming down. There was only one lady that noticed, and she was like, "Oh my God, I have a what happened to you?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, no, I'm fine. And I was more than anything, it was just more of an embarrassing thing. I guess you feel a little bit old. You feel a little bit old about that.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this because we didn't find this out until this morning. But back to the Black Hawk and the delay in the training and the dogs are getting restless, and then all of a sudden, New England K9 takes all the dogs and just rallies them back at their van. I'm like, something's up. I just knew something was going on. So they end up closing the door of the Black Hawk and lifting off and taking off. And Teal Goat comes over to me, who's, you guys probably know, a lot of people know Teal. Yeah. He comes over and goes, there's a mission. They got called on a mission, and they had to just take off really quick and get diverted over to the other side of the Whites. And it's actually interesting because as part of their talk, people were very curious about, hey, how do I, like the big joke of the day, like how do I get a ride on one of these things? And basically, there's two ways you can do it. You sign a hell of a lot of paperwork, or you get really effed up on the mountains. Those are the two ways that you get a ride on that thing. And then there was talk about what happens if you're flying the Black Hawk in the neighborhood of a mission, a rescue mission or something going on. Can you divert the Black Hawk to another mission? And it's really interesting because there's quite a protocol and a methodology to their responses. When there's a call from Fish and Game, there's this entire process that gets kicked into gear where they have to come up with a plan, the safety plan, the risk to benefit ratio and all that stuff before they even lift off. And that gets all signed off on, and that can take hours. They came up with the plan to come to this training on Saturday, the day before, and they finalized the plan that morning. So it's quite this intricate process. And for them to all of a sudden break out of that plan it's not as easy as you would think to just go divert out of your plan that you're on. But voila, sure enough, they got pulled away to, guess where?
Sure. But so just so I understand, so you guys are at your training session, statewide training,
Yep.
and I feel like this happened. I feel like you said that like you were at a training before where the same thing happened, but like basically a rescue happened where they needed a helicopter to respond.
A similar situation, but that was related to the student on Moosalak that disappeared.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, same training day. Yeah, similar.
Yes. So if you're going to get injured, like the whatever date that you're having your training session, that's still probably the best day to get injured. Everyone's ready to go.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I mean, Fish and Game is like, this is the best day for a call to come in because everybody's right here, ready to go.
Yeah, they're all ready to go.
So, Mark, earlier that morning, you're on Capps Ridge.
Yep.
You slip and fall. It's windy. It's crazy. Another hiker ran into trouble up there. A hiker from Massachusetts fell going down Capps Ridge, as you were.
I'm sure I probably talked to her too, because I talked to so many people going up, climbing that day on the way down.
Yeah, I bet. This individual, Linda Laganos, 66, of Beverly, Massachusetts. Go Beverly. I lived there. That's a pretty cool place. Was near the summit, and she was there to watch the flag rising on for September 11th. And on her way down, deja vu. It's like she slipped and fell and hit her head. Now, in this case, it was much more serious, I would imagine, based upon the report. So, Air National Guard was called in for a helicopter rescue. Members of the New Hampshire Army National Guard had flown up to Cannon Mountain for search and rescue training with a Black Hawk. When the call came, the crew cut short its training and flew to Laganos, where a crew member was lowered to the hiker. She was placed on the helicopter and flown to a local airport and transferred to a local hospital. So I just found that amazing. I mean, two people hiking, two similar situations, same location, same injury, that type of thing. You can be the world's greatest hiker in the universe, and you're still prone to these things, and it does not take much to find yourself in really serious condition up there. Mark, I think in your case, had it been another foot-pound of pressure or a little faster, you might have been in the same situation. So it just, it's an amazing coincidence, and it was neat to bring it up and talk about it.
Hopefully she's okay, because I've had a notorious history with big crashes like that. Like I back a long time ago, I had a big ski accident that I had a severe head injury. And so I was, it got my attention.
It's I got a little bit of a different perspective, but I think I hiked last year on Jefferson when Flags of the 48 was going on, and it was an absolute mob scene. So my advice is to just stay away from Jefferson when you're on Flags on the 48, except for whoever's doing it, whoever's carrying it up, because that place just gets to be a mob scene. So bad things seem to be happening there.
But moving on, do you want to move on to the 48 coverage? I've seen a lot of stuff. There was a post by the actual creator of the event, and he goes, or he or she, I'm not sure who this is, but at 6:21 this morning, I saw the picture that made it official. 100% coverage was yet again achieved by this great community. Every single year from 2004, this goal has been achieved. Mother Nature sometimes puts up a fight with rain, high winds, and thunderstorms, but this community pulled through yet again. 18 years in a row for covering them all. Just awesome. So basically what he's saying there is that, for the past 18 years, they have had a flag on in memorial for September 11th on all of the 48 peaks in New Hampshire, which is just fantastic. I did some other scrolling around and some other noteworthy things. This 86-year-old man and his son with a cane walked all the way up. Let's see, they went up Cannon Mountain to see the flags hoisted up on the deck. And then this other story is pretty neat too. This dog Zeppelin. Have you seen this picture of this dog that hiked?
No.
Okay. It's a dog named Zeppelin. It looks like a black lab, and it has this red jacket on its back, and there's a bunch of names scribbled on it. So the post says, "My dog Zeppelin will be doing his part for Flags on the 48. His vest will have the names of all the search and rescue dogs that participated in the rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero and the Pentagon. How cool is that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat. So good job, everybody. And I just think the 20th went off great. And it was a really somber and beautiful day. So
some of these peaks get like insanely crowded, but wherever you choose to hike, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I know I said earlier that Lake Jefferson gets crazy, but wherever you ultimately end up deciding to hike, come out and show support, I think it's a great thing, and it's always a nice event. And I feel like it's always like this is sort of like the end of the summer. Like from here on out, like there's not going to be that many warm days, especially on the presidentials and the high peaks. We're going to start seeing some snow and some freezing conditions up there pretty soon.
Oh, really soon. Absolutely.
Yep.
So, Mark, was it 40 degrees up there base temperature, or with the wind, do you think?
It wasn't freezing, I don't think. But so yeah. It was I mean, I had to stop after, as I was coming down. I wasn't wearing the right gloves. I was just wearing some thin, those rubber gloves like you use. I was using some of those, and I had to actually stop and I huddled down underneath a little rock and turned I had my stove with me. I turned my stove on just to warm my hands because my hands were so cold. And then I went on from there, but it was very uncomfortable at the top. I had a fleece on, I had my rain jacket on, I had long pants. I'm passing people that are climbing it with like little running shorts and little t-shirts. And I'm like, man, are they in for a surprise? I passed hundreds of people going down that trail. There were so many people climbing that trail. And one of the people had a backpack with baby on it. And I'm just thinking to myself, they're in for a world of surprise once they get to the top. But hopefully they don't get that high. Hopefully they turn around.
Tough stuff. It's an odd summit. It's tough to maneuver those boulders, and you're right. A lot of it's slippery. It's just that's a weird summit.
Yeah, at the top it was wet, but the bottom I think seemed dry, but the top was it had the moss on it, not the moss, but the white stuff on it that was slippery. But
SLASR's hiking topic of the week.
Navi, when we talked to you on episode 17, you were just finishing up connecting from the southern portion of New Hampshire all the way up to the beginning of the Cohos Trail. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say you were going to kind of flip-flop and head up to Canada and then make your way down south to finish the Cohos Trail? Is that how you did it?
No, I did it in basically 4 legs. I did it in 5 days to the AT from New Hampshire to the AT, and then I did 5 days on the AT, and then from there I came back and I did all the Cohos Trail in one 10-day stretch. Basically, what I did was I just stopped before I got to say Mount Washington Hotel, and I just.
Did you have 10 days of food on you, or did you have caches here and there, or how'd you prepare?
Basically, took 5 days of food, and then I stayed at a little motel halfway, and then I shipped 5 days of food there, and she had the package for me, and then went on from there. So it was just 5 days and 5 days. And I could have done it a bit faster. And it was funny because I called my girlfriend that was going to pick me up at the Canada border. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing really good time. And she said, well, you said 10 days, so slow down because I'm not coming any earlier. So I said, okay, what? And it kind of worked out nice because at the end I had easier days, so I could enjoy it a little bit more.
Well, I've watched your videos. This one was great. It really shows you how crazy it can get up there. It's like you were going through some really thick stuff, and we can talk about that a little later. But how much of the Prezzies you had to cover as you're moving north?
Yeah, up and over Eisenhower. So it's a long day. by the time you get to almost the Mount Washington Hotel.
Gotcha.
Nice. Now, Mark, can you talk a little bit about the shelters and camping situation in the northern part of the trail, like when you exit the Prezzies and get up to Nash Stream, and once you really pass the Nash Stream section and get up north? Can you talk a little bit about the overnight planning for that?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I was trying to do big days. I was trying to do, close to 20-mile days. So a lot of the times it worked out perfect where I could go shelter to shelter. But there were some days where a couple days where that wasn't very realistic. But mostly I could go shelter to shelter. I think one of the times there was a camp area, and I stayed they had a little lean-to at the camp area, and I stayed there, and that was nice. And that was if you saw the video, that was the time that I played the loon call during the video, and the loons woke me up, and that was really that was a kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, that's actually really a nice moment on that video. So on YouTube, you're under, is it Nobby Hikes?
Nobby Hikes.
Just so people know they can find it. Nobby Hikes. His videos are pretty cool, people. You want to check them out. This whole trip is on there. So, okay.
But it was a very hike that I really very unique, because it is very strange being all alone so long, because you don't see other hikers out there on the Cohos. And then when you get to the very end at the border station there, this was during COVID times, and the border was closed, and there wasn't one. I didn't see one car. It was just Booneyville. And then all of a sudden there was a family that rolled up, and as I was walking away, because I walked down, I might as well start walking until my girlfriend came and picked me up, and but that was about the only person I saw. It's funny.
So after the hotel, what's next?
Well, it's the Kilkenny Ridge. Basically, like, you're going from Womback up to Rogers Ledge. That's the whole Kilkenny Ridge traverse. And then from there, you'll hop on the Nash Stream and then the northern section, I think.
Yeah, Kilkenny is it's a beautiful trail. It was funny. Certain trails are obviously are nicer than others, and that was I remember that as being a nice section. And I know that you've done it, Stomp, haven't you?
I have not. No, I've done bits and pieces, but not the whole thing. Yeah, and I saw your footage of that really steep section there. What, Rogers Ledge? How was that?
It's probably the highlight of the Cohos Trail, I would think. Dude, that's like the best part of the whole trail.
Hold on.
I think you got whacked in the head a little harder than you think.
I think Mark definitely needs a little bit of concussion therapy.
The Kilkenny Trail, the nice thing about that is all the people that go and do that trail, they go up to the top and then they turn around and they go back the same way. But not many people do the whole ridge, because the whole ridge is so long, I think. So the trail going up to that, I remember as being really, really nice. And then from the top on, the trees were kind of growing in, and you basically in the morning are completely soaked. And I remember that being annoying.
That cliff looks really great.
Yeah.
You can do an out and back on that, Mike, to get to that cliff, Rogers Ledge?
So not on the Kilkenny Ridge. So basically, like, Kilkenny Ridge is about a 27-mile section, starts from Womback and goes to South Pond, and Rogers Ledge is like the last peak. or the last sort of outlook on if you go south to north. If you did want to do just a hike to Rogers Ledge, you can start from South Pond and do an out and back. I think it's like, I don't know, 6 or 8 miles round trip. Or you can also hit it from York Pond and go in from that direction as well. But, the whole Kilkenny Ridge, if you're going north to or south to north, is, you basically hit Wambach, you go through the Weeks, you'll go through Willard Notch. Typically, most people will stay over in Willard Notch, and then you'll make your way over to Mount Cabot, and then you'll hit the Bulge and the Horn. Then you go through this section that I think Mark was talking about.
Unknown Pond.
Yeah, Unknown Pond. Then you'll go through the section I think Mark was talking about where it's very heavy with ferns. You will get wet if it's been raining because there's no real trail. You've got to bust through the ferns, and then eventually you go through another set of ponds, and then you'll get out to Rogers Ledge and South Pond. That's like the whole Kilkenny Ridge traverse section.
Gotcha. All right. So what happens after Kilkenny? Do you dump out into Stark, the city of Stark there, or the town?
Yeah, Stark Village Inn was the place where I sent my food. And the lady that owns that is such a nice person, and she came and picked me up from the trailhead, and I got in her truck, and she's like, I don't have a restaurant at my inn, so are you hungry? And I was like, yeah. And she took me to the store, and we got sandwiches and stuff, and the nicest lady in the world. And then we went back to her house, which was the inn.
That's cool.
And it was nothing fancy. It was just basically like a house that her second floor had a ton of rooms.
Yeah.
And it was just it almost felt like you're part of the family staying there. It was really very comfortable. And
how cool is that?
yes, yeah, it's right in it's a beautiful town, and right. There's a covered bridge right in her backyard, so it's the most beautiful thing. I ate my dinner sitting on her backyard, and the river is going by.
That's great.
Yeah, and so in the morning she made me breakfast, and me and another guest.
Oh my God, it's so
then
stunning.
Took me to the trailhead, and that was it.
All right, so. Well, that's my next question, because you're at the foothills of Nash Stream Forest and the Percy. So where did she take you to? Where was the trailhead?
Well, the trailhead goes right down to the road, and then there was a bridge right there that goes across the river, and she just and I just hung out there for a little bit until she came and got me.
Okay,
then I just had her drop me right back off.
Yeah, I was just curious
spot.
if she had to drive you down Nash Stream Forest Road or whatever just to get you closer, but that's cool. So it starts right there.
No.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was, and the road walk isn't. There's a little bit of road walk, but it's not very far. I know that. There's a shelter right after you get on the trail. You go by a shelter, and it's funny because her husband that died, they left money to the trail, and so that whole shelter is in a remembrance of him, and it's a brand new shelter. I think it might have been called. There's one right here called the Devil's Rest Shelter.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's
Oh,
it,
dude, speaking of that, did you see the Devil's Jacuzzi? Did you stop by to see that little spur?
I went by it, but when I looked, I don't think I really saw it.
You have to go down.
I saw the
a ways.
Yeah, I didn't go to maybe. I saw the sign for it, and then there was a notch in the rocks, and I looked through there, and I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
so I guess I missed it.
It's interesting. My wife and I hit that one day, and it's a little spur. It's maybe 0.2 to get to this, natural water jacuzzi. It's just a bunch of rocks that form a jacuzzi, and of course, my wife was crazy enough to jump into it, and it was absolutely freezing. And It's a nice little thing halfway up through the Nash Stream Forest. What's after Nash Stream? God, it must be like just pure logging roads by that point.
There's a couple of logging roads, and I think I ended up staying at a place called Old Hermit Shelter that next time. And so, going to shelter was fairly realistic the more north you go. And the trails are marked out nice.
Oh, that's surprising.
I think there's not much out there, and I think there was one time I had to actually, I did a lot of walking, and I planned on staying. There was a rock quarry, and I just ended up going off the road and staying in the rock quarry, popping my tent in the rock quarry. But other than that, it was just maybe 2 or 3 times that I had to do something like that. But other than that, staying at the shelters was realistic.
Yeah. How was the weather for the trip?
Before I got to the Cohos Trail, I think it rained more than it didn't rain.
Yeah.
Going up to the Cohos Trail. And in the beginning of the Cohos Trail, it rained a bit. And towards the end of the hike, it was drying out. So it was a little bit more enjoyable towards the end.
So when you got to the border, was it closed or was it open?
I don't know if it opened for everyone. I think it probably opened just for people that have had vaccines.
Yeah.
It's probably something I don't know for sure. Yeah.
I think like even up to an hour ago, it's still closed, isn't it?
Yeah. But the end of the trail is kind of neat because you have the I call it the lake region at the very top, where you have like Lake Francis, and then you have the Connecticut lakes, the first and second, third, fourth Connecticut lakes, and Lake Francis was basically is a very fairly long stretch, but it has a couple times where you can go down and see the water, but mostly houses. So you're basically road walking down that. And then they have a place, a campground there, a little bit north of Lake Francis that you can stay at. And then from there, I was doing less mileage because my girlfriend was picking me up, so I could really enjoy the trail a little bit more. And from that point on, the trail is very nice, except for the very end. The very end, the trail is more harsh, and the trail isn't very pretty when it dumps out onto the very end.
Okay. When I watched your video, I think I was actually most impressed towards the end of the video where you came across the source of a major river. Can you tell us about that?
Well, the very last lake that you go around, and it's funny because what you do is you end up going to the border station.
Yeah, it was amazing watching that video. When you think of the Connecticut River here, like central New Hampshire, New Hampshire-Vermont border, the thing is freaking massive. Tell us about it. It was a great part of your video.
After you go to the border station, there's a trail to the left, and that goes to the fourth Connecticut Lake, and then you go around the fourth Connecticut Lake, and that's basically the end of the hike. So I went to the border station and I looked around because I was just kind of curious to, if making sure that everyone there knew that I wasn't a terrorist or anything. But no one bothered me, and so I went on into the fourth lake, and it was a small little lake, and in the very back of the lake is where the Connecticut the Connecticut River starts.
It's really cool,
and it's very, very small, very, very small. Like it's only maybe 6 feet across,
huh.
and
sounds like a great trip.
So it was very, very tiny, and when I went across it, I wasn't even sure that it was it. But I wouldn't say that it was my funnest trip, but it was a real challenge. I thought of it afterwards as a real challenge because it really pushed you in certain ways, and but it was a great experience.
Yeah, but not just this section, but the entire leg from Monadnock all the way up. I mean, that's a hell of a challenge, and you did it. So, congrats. That's a good trip, good story.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
What's next on the agenda?
I think the next one is I'd like to do some AT stuff. So I think I'm probably next year going to be doing the 100-mile wilderness.
Well, speaking of hikes, I was curious if we talked about this a little bit, Mike, but is anybody out there interested in having like a SLASR group hike or something like that? If anybody wants us to pursue that idea, drop us some messages, some direct messages, and maybe we can put something together.
Yeah. I think that sounds good. I would.
Yeah, I thought it might be fun. Something off the beaten path or something unique. And yeah.
That's a great idea.
All right. Well, Mike, any other questions at all? I think that's great, Mark. Thank you for coming on last minute and telling us your
thank you, guys.
Harrowing, head-squashing story on Caps Ridge. No, seriously.
Yeah, Jesus, rest up, Mark. You're no spring chicken anymore. You can't be banging your head, falling down hiking.
And I can't be carrying you either.
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, good stuff.
Shame.
Yes. I might have to drop that one on you. I don't know. No, that was no. According to Mike, that would be a no shame because that's a shit happens.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered on today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information on SLASRpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until next time, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words that describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hill!
Here's Lieutenant James Neeland, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.